Hey friends, Brian King here. Let's talk nonverbal cues because that can be a really big issue with people with ADHD or Asperger's. Nonverbal refers to all that communication that's being sent out that it is not contained in the words that we use. The things like vocal inflection, physical gestures, tonality, intensity such as happiness, anger, frustration, those things that come out in the intensity of the language, or facial expressions. Is somebody happy? Is somebody frustrated? There are so many ways that it comes across, but folks with these different processing challenges, with these little gaps in their perceptive abilities, miss a lot of this stuff. In my case, I happen to be known for my ability to use my voice. That's not an accident. I am heavily auditory. I love music. I love the sounds of nature. I'll go outside and get lost in the sound of the wind. So it makes sense that I tune in more to the way a person talks, the language they use, the inflection in their voice. I rely heavily upon that in order to figure out how a person's feeling, what are they meaning, what do they want me to know. But when it comes to visual input, I'm often up the creek without a paddle. I can catch facial expressions if they're obvious. A really big smile or a really big frown, that catches my attention. It needs to be more intense because my ability to process facial expressions is really lacking. Of course, I got all the strength in the auditory and really weak in the visual. That tends to be how our brains work. Very, very lopsided. We're not generalists at all, really, when it comes to our skill sets. High in one area, low in another. Follow me? Then there are also people that, let me back up a little bit, ADHD moment. One rule I discovered when I was exploring my own Asperger's and ADHD and so on, and working with clients that have the same challenges, is I noticed a disconnect between how other people were communicating and how the person on the spectrum communicated themselves. Let me give you a scenario. I was working with a mother and a son. The mother was so upset because when she was upset, he didn't know it. And she would say, "Can't you tell that I'm upset? Can't you tell when I'm angry?" And he would say, "No, I can't. No, I don't know when you're angry unless you tell me." Are you getting the point here by the voice that I'm using? Her son was very monotone in the way he spoke. Really didn't use any inflection. She used a lot. So let me ask you this. If somebody's really monotone and doesn't use a lot of inflection, do you think that their brain is cued in to the value of inflection? No. So the rule I learned is, if they don't use it, they don't see it. So if you've got a person that is monotone, they're not tuned into your inflection. So trying to convey to them how angry you are is not going to compute. You've got to find a different way to communicate that emotion to a person who is monotone. This auditory ain't going to do it. So what we found out for this young man is he's very kinesthetic, which means he's very much into his body. So his mom needed to use body, kinesthetic, feeling kind of words. So she needed to come right out and say, "I feel very angry right now. I feel upset." Then it clicked with him that she was feeling that. But simply saying, "Man, I don't like the way today went," or "this is very frustrating," or whatever language she used that wasn't feeling, totally went over his head. He totally missed it because it wasn't tuned in to what his brain could see. People that don't make a lot of expressions with their faces. In fact, people who've seen me present have pointed out to me that my face is not very animated when I present. My voice is. You'll hear a lot of emotion in my voice, but you won't see a lot of expression on my face. Does it make sense then that I maybe don't read facial expressions that well? Ding, 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 ding. So you can interact with somebody that has ADHD or has Asperger's and basically examine what they don't do. Somebody that stands there with their hands at their side and doesn't use their body very much when they talk is not really going to grasp your nonverbal gestures, your physical motion. I've gotten used to using my body. I've practiced using my body to do more emphasis because I do a lot of presenting and I want to be a well-rounded communicator. So I've learned some things over the years through my own efforts. But it didn't always come natural to me. And I don't usually catch when somebody else is using nonverbal gestures. I still default to the auditory. Sometimes I catch them, sometimes I don't. When I'm really tired and I can't tune in as much to the way I'm communicating or somebody else, my voice can get a little bit more monotone. I'm less animated and I don't hear as well because I'm not as resourceful when I'm tired. So obviously, this is not just information that's useful for you interacting with somebody that has ADHD or Asperger's. If you have this yourself, it's self-awareness time. Pay attention to and reflect upon situations where you had big misunderstandings and see if you can figure out what you missed. Did you miss what a person meant? Remember the words they said. See if they were tuned into their feelings and communicated feeling words. See if you can recall if they said, "Can't you see the look on my face?" And you responded by saying, "Actually, no." That's a clue about what you're missing. When it comes to communication, it is key, absolutely key, for you to know what information and in what form you don't get. Do you miss vocal inflection? Do you miss the physical motions? Do you miss facial expressions? Because if you do, my advice is not to learn how to see facial expressions if you suck at it. My advice is to try and get the information you need through your primary channel. In my case, I'm heavily auditory. So when I ask questions like, "So how do you feel about that?" Or "Tell me what you think about this subject." Because people may communicate their feeling and their thinking through their facial expressions or gestures, but I tend to miss that. But I do get a lot through auditory. So I ask questions to compel them to tell me what their body would ordinarily communicate. So I get them to verbalize the nonverbal. Make sense? If you're highly visual and they're using a lot of inflection, you can say things like, "Can you show me what that would look like?" Or if you're kinesthetic, how would it feel to do that? Find ways to compel them to give it to you through your primary channel, and that can fill in the gaps that are evident through your unique wiring. So those are my tips on how you can learn where to focus your efforts in becoming more effective when you miss nonverbal communication. So leave some comments. Let me know what you think about this. Feel free to ask some questions. And if you think there's other people that can benefit from this, invite them into our community so that they can benefit as well. I hope this has been valuable to you. I really appreciate your time. This has been Brian, and we will talk again soon.